Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the fourth round of the Superprestige which took place in Merksplas, and with me here to do that is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I will completely be relying on you, Issam, and so will our listeners, because I have only been able to watch the highlights. I am in Troyes for the World Cup. I am working with USA Cycling for the men and women junior department. I'm doing media for them, making Instagram reels and doing some other media stuff for them. Just going to disclose that. I will obviously try to remain unbiased, but we're not going to talk about the juniors in our podcast tomorrow. Anyway, just wanted to put that out there. But we were pre-riding today, and that's why Issam will tell you everything you need to know about the men elite race.
In the beginning of the race, it was a very good start for Nieuwenhuis. Niels van der Putten showed himself as well in the wheel of Nieuwenhuis. Issam struggled a little bit more with the start, but was up there in the front. Other names that could be mentioned are definitely Philippe Orts, who was up there as well. Nieuwenhuis opened fast and controlled the race for the majority of it, led it. Niels van der Putten was struggling to stay in his wheel and had to let Nieuwenhuis go. Then for a long time he was in second place. Issam was the guy in third. Philippe Orts actually caught up to him, but made some mistakes. Was not really feeling the race quite well with difficult conditions. Orts got himself into third place and was actually closing more and more to Niels van der Putten, who was struggling a little bit in the later part of the race. But Orts found himself in a bit of difficulty in the last two laps. Issam in fourth position actually got himself back to third and then had to chase Van der Putten down in the last lap. Was able, caught up to him with Van der Putten making a couple of mistakes. Not at his best in the last lap, and Issam, as we have seen a couple of times this season already, clutched second place. But Joris Nieuwenhuis with more than a minute lead on Issam, Van der Putten and Orts in first. A very dominant win from Nieuwenhuis. Second place for Issam, and third place goes to Niels van der Putten.
Yeah, some super big caps. I mean, the spread from first to 10th was nearly 3 minutes. This season we've seen it be around a minute, even less in some races. But the course was super muddy, and for Nieuwenhuis to take a win there, I think it was overdue this season. We've said it a couple of times. Do you agree with that? Issam, that this was really just such a hard course? Nieuwenhuis with here, well, Van der Haar not here, Van Toerenhout not here. It was his time to get that victory, which he deserves based on his season and the steps he's made when he returned to cyclocross last year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Neil was a very good indication for him being able to stay close with Issam for the majority of the race, and then, having to let go in the last lap. For me, kind of showed already that, okay, with a couple of races under his belt more, it's going to get better and better. And then if he gets these type of conditions, it's going to be hard to beat him. And I think that today we got those conditions. It was a miserable day. I mean, I don't know how the weather there was for the whole day, but I can only imagine that it was raining, because here in the Netherlands it's kind of the same, and it seems like it's raining everywhere. But those conditions are just tough. I think that Issam, I do not know how much the race of tomorrow in Troyes, the World Cup, is playing a role in his performance today. But I think that Nieuwenhuis today was just, from the start, he was up there, and he had a plan. He wanted to be at the front and just give it his all. And Issam was just, in my opinion, made just a couple of silly mistakes, getting stuck up a hill, not really at his best, to be then still be able to get second place. I think that, that was definitely the most you can get out of such a race. The gap is 1 minute 30, but it's not a classification on gap. It's just points that count in the Superprestige. So, it's for Issam. He struggled left and right, and at a moment you could definitely say, oh, this is not even going to be a podium with Orts in third and Van der Putten in second. But then he just found himself in the last couple of laps and just minimized his mistakes and was able to get by both Orts and Van der Putten, who, to be honest, both of them very good race. Technically as well in the woods, where it was tricky. Both Orts and Van der Putten, they were going through those sections in the woods great. Made some mistakes, and especially I think when they got a little bit more tired, the mistakes kind of creeped up a little bit more, and that was for them a little bit of an issue. But overall, it was great to see those guys as well racing it up at the front. And I think it was Nice that said it, that it's or it was Christoph Routhoff, I'm not really sure, but one of them at least said that during the race, that if you would have guessed that it was going to be mid-race and you had Nieuwenhuis leading with Van der Putte in second and Philippe Orts in third, it would be a bit of a surprise. But then Iserbyt came back and kind of brought that standard that he has of being consistent and being on the podium so many times this season already, and just did it once again and got himself a second place.
I'll come back to that battle for third and fourth in a bit, but I would just still like to point out that no matter if Iserbyt really went for it or not, as you said, Neil was an indication. Iserbyt needed to go super deep and rely on mistakes from Nieuwenhuis in the final lap to get that victory. I do think that today Iserbyt, with his big lead in the Superprestige, was thinking, well, I'm just going to score a decent amount of points. There's 4 races left. We've had 4. He has like a pretty big lead. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing, end in the top 3 of all those races, and he's going to win. And tomorrow in the World Cup, there's more on the line for him, because in that World Cup, he's not leading, he's trailing, and he wants to win that. He wants to win everything. He wants to win all classifications. He's going old school. He wants that Grand Slam. He won it once, but that was only because Toon Aerts got scrapped from the X2O trophy winners list. He wants a clean one. He wants them just on, not only on paper, he wants to actually win them out there. I do think that influenced him, but if you saw how deep he needed to go in New, and this was arguably an even more tractor slugfest, then maybe it was the right decision. Well, it was the right decision. I think it was the right decision for Iserbyt to potentially not go all out. I mean, from what I saw, how he went through those final laps, and again, I only saw a limited amount, I think he definitely kept something back for the race in Trot tomorrow, which is not going to be an easy one either. Today there's been Masters racing all day. The course has been wrecked up. The juniors have been pre-riding today, which is, as I said, why I didn't watch the race in Merksplas. That course is going to be slippery. It's going to be tricky. There's a lot of short banks. It's a good course for Iserbyt, but you will need that freshness because Lars van der Haar was not here in Merksplas. He was here in Troy, where I am. He was pre-riding. Thibaut Nys sitting at home, or well, at home. No, he's also here in Troyes, but he's also fresh. So Iserbyt needs that energy, I think, tomorrow, which makes it the right call, my decision. In my opinion, not my decision.
You would have made that decision, I guess. But
yeah, I would.
It felt like that. I mean, it's still not really his course, and I think that even if he gave it his all, it's not going to be. It wouldn't have been enough today to beat Nieuwenhuis, because Nieuwenhuis was also technically not making that many mistakes, and I think it's obviously a little bit easier if you have a very good day to not make that many mistakes. And I think Nieuwenhuis just rode a very, very good race, but I think it's more a situation where Iserbyt kind of realized that it was not going to be for first place, and he doesn't have that urge anymore in this classification already, because it's basically played. He just has to show up right within top 5 or something, and then his other competitors, if they don't even show up, it's even better for him, because I think Van der Haar was at the moment before Merksplas was second in the Superprestige, and now it's Zweek with 39 points. He has 59 points. Keep in mind that Superprestige only has 1 point difference each place you finish. So I think that, to be honest, the Superprestige, if it was already quite clear after New, now it's in my opinion all done, unless he has some misfortune and misses out on 2 races or something. But I think that if he's just in good health and in a reasonable form, then I don't think that this Superprestige is going anywhere else than into Iserbyt.
Then that battle for third, you mentioned that some people on the broadcast said it was somewhat surprising, and maybe it is, but I don't think it's super surprising. I mean, for Orts, we saw last week in Neil what he was capable of. Fourth here is then not a massive surprise, especially if you account for the fact of the riders who aren't there, which I already mentioned. And Niels van der Putte, he might not have been getting a top result like this season. It's his first podium, apart from the win he took in Heerde Strand, but that was a bit of a smaller race, with all the respect to that win, of course, because a win is a win. But we do know that Niels van der Putte is a rider who is capable of doing this. He's a rider who's been close to results like this last season. I mean, at the end of the season, he was fighting for the podium a couple of times. I think in Brussels 2 seasons ago he ended on the podium, or maybe it was already 3 seasons ago. Yeah, it must have been in the 2021. So that's already 3 seasons ago. Time goes quickly, but yeah, he's a rider who's capable of doing this. So maybe slightly surprising, but yeah, if we count with the fact that Gerben Kuipers and Laurens Sweeck both aren't on their best forms at the moment, then these are the riders who we would look at to take benefit from that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some logic behind the results and also the situation at that moment. I think that it was probably set in a sort of expecting maybe a couple of other riders on that podium spot mid-race. Iserbyt would have been one of them. I think the combination in general was the thing that was pointed out as surprising, but I think each of those riders that we were talking about, Orts is having a great season in my opinion. Van der Putte has shown that, the hour race is still something he struggles with in my opinion. I don't know why, but it's just he kind of struggles to get himself through an hour of racing. That is also something that he still gets some time to work on, in my opinion. And I think that today he could compensate it a little bit more with his technique, because the technique today was important. If you were not comfortable on the bike and you made mistakes left and right, it just costs more energy to get through sections, and then it's just getting harder and harder. And with the circumstances you have to go through that race, it just becomes more and more difficult. So yeah, I mean, it, like you said, it's not the greatest of surprises, but the combination and those three being on the podium mid-race was definitely not something you could expect. If you would have asked me before the race who would have been in those spots, I probably wouldn't have guessed that podium. I mean, my guessing is not great anyways, but still. But I think it was great to see how Orts was racing. It was great to see how Van der Putte was racing. They were both having a very good race. And yeah, I think if you go a little bit further down the top 10, you have some names that are a bit more disappointing, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe Gerben Kuipers not that disappointing, but I guess you're hinting towards Laurens Sweeck. What's your thought on his result and just the way he's riding in general?
I mean, if you narrow it down to today, I think he was on course because he was kind of battling it out for 5th, 6th place. Then had a crash where he just, I think that crash kind of sums up how his season is going at the moment. There is not really that energy that we saw from a Sweeck last year when he joined. At that time it was Krelan Friestad, and you just the energy that he had entering a new team, bringing up a fight to the guys at Paul Sauze. I think that was just it. I don't know how you think about it, but if you also look at his previous results, there were some ups, but it was mostly downs. It hasn't been the greatest of seasons, and I think that if you look at what Sweeck could do and you look at how his last season went, it's just a bit underwhelming, his performances so far. And today as well, it was okay. It's not really a course that suits him 100%, but I think technically he can definitely utilize that ability that he has on a bike. There was not a lot of running. Yeah, I think in my opinion it was a course where you can definitely expect him to finish within the top 5 and, to be honest, on the podium. But it was not the case, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what the issue is there. Maybe he's also just showing up, racing, and thinking about Troy on the Sunday. But yeah, it wasn't a great race for him, and so far his season hasn't been all too great either.
Let's look at the entire top 10 then. Nieuwenhuis with the win ahead of Iserbyt and Van der Putte. Orts ended 4th ahead of Gerben Kuipers, Kevin Kuhn, Jens Adams, Laurens Sweeck, Lander Looks and Wietse Meelse, who completed the top 10. Not really all too much to go over. I would just like to say that Daan Soete, who ended 19th, made his return to racing last week in Niel, and then he raced Hitnau the day after, but he has had long COVID after, I think, the Waterloo World Cup, which he did. So that is obviously influencing his performances. But with that out of the way, we can now go on to the women's race. Issam, tell us what went down there.
With the women's race, we had a very good start from Brandt. Van der Heijden was following quite well. Alvarado was taking a little bit more her time, but was definitely at the front and could see what was going on. But by the time Alvarado was in second, Brandt already had a gap, so she had to chase. In the second lap, however, she already caught up to Brandt, who was making small mistakes at that time, and Alvarado just having a very good lap and a very good race till that point. Alvarado passes Brandt. Brandt has to, try everything to kind of stay close to her, but then a couple of mistakes. I mean, if you have a downhill that goes to the right and you go straight, then there is an issue and you will lose more and more time. And yeah, Alvarado just doing what she has been doing this whole season. When there is no Fem van Empel and others that could bring up a certain fight, she's just always going to show up and win the race, and that's what she did. No big mistakes from Alvarado. Did everything that she had to do and won the race. Brandt, again, strong effort today, very good race. Just a little bit too many mistakes on a course that is tricky. We know that. We have seen that with some of the competitors. And then for third place, we had at the beginning of the race Van der Heijden being in that position. But then it was in the later part of the race, it was actually Vorst that got into third. But in the last lap, it was Marion Norbert Riberol who caught up to Vorst and overtook her in the last lap and got that battle to her hand and was able to get a third spot, and a very strong race from Riberol.
Brandt looked pretty strong in the first part of the race, just like last week in Dendermonde. She set out pretty quickly. Do you think that despite losing by nearly half a minute to Alvarado, we can slowly start to make some conclusions on the level of Brandt compared to Alvarado? Do you think that in a couple of weeks we will see Brandt be on par with Alvarado?
Maybe, but it's a bit hard to say because I don't know how. I think that the way Alvarado caught up to Brandt was relatively easy. And yes, there were some mistakes from Brandt's end, but up until that point, it was not that much. I don't know if Brandt will be able in this season to actually catch up to the level that Alvarado has at this moment. I think that it's just a little too high, I feel. But I think that if Alvarado has a period where it just doesn't really go all that well, and I think every rider will have such a moment this season with how packed the calendar is in a way, then I definitely think that Brandt could be able to, get a better result in compared to Alvarado in some of the races. And, a race like this, I would have loved to see the same type of race with the same circumstances, but just a little less technical, because then I think it would have been more interesting and we would have known a little bit more. But now, just with the mistakes that Brandt has made and the fact that Alvarado at the moment in these type of courses is almost superior, then it's just a bit difficult to jump to conclusions and figure something out about that. But I think in the end, Brandt can definitely be happy with the form that she has. We have said it already with the first race in Dendermonde back. That was a very good outing, and today it was also very good. So I think if you add a couple more races to that and have a course that is maybe a little bit less depending on the technique, who knows? I think that definitely something like that is possible. But I think that you have with Brandt, you will have a little bit more ifs, and you need the circumstances to be right for something in that manner to happen. I think with Alvarado, you just have that a little bit less. I think that at the moment she's just better, and I don't know if that will change over the course of this season.
Another rider who had a strong outing was Marion Norbert Riberol. She was good last week in Dendermonde, ended fourth there. Now she ends one place higher, third. It's the continuation of what has been a pretty strong season by her, and the opposite kind of goes for Vorst. That final lap where she got overtaken by Riberol was, in my opinion, pretty telling for her season. It's just not been that great, especially in recent weeks, ever since that crash in Maasmechelen in the first lap. It's been suffering on the Koppenberg, crash on the stairs in Pontchâteau. In Niel, well, she got third, but also there gave away a second place to Van Alphen in the final lap. Dendermonde had that crash in the start and ended 14th. Now again in the final lap loses out on a podium spot. Kind of completely opposite seasons for both of them.
A good Vorst wouldn't have lost the third spot, in my opinion. I think that was just, it's a bit telling of how this season so far is going. It has been unfortunate though. I mean, it's just, if you hear the issues, the injuries, you talk about the crashes as well. It's difficult to really get a good picture out of if this is really the potential, or there's just a lot of things that hamper her at the moment and are not really helping her out to reach her, her potential. Issues with the back, knee, it's, those are definitely two parts of the body that you need in cyclocross. And if you have issues with those things, it's a tough. It's going to be a tough season, and especially for in a sport as cyclocross, it's not going to be easy to say, well, I just take 2 months off and then I come back. Kind of impossible at this point, because when you come back, you're already at the nationals and you're already at the worlds, and you probably won't be selected because you didn't show that much in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's just a difficult situation for her, and you just have to get through this season and make the best out of it. I think we can see at certain points that the good Vorst is showing, but then it's just it kind of never ends in a full race where we see that Vorst is having a very good day. And I think especially today it was, I thought for a moment that third spot is definitely going to be for Vorst, but Ribeiro, as you said, kind of the opposite, is having a very good season. He's made that step, a very important step, I think, and a very important step for her in her career as well, because now, having again another podium. Sure, we are missing some names, but I definitely still think that it is a very important podium for her. You take a lot of motivation out of it. You see that you're rewarded for the work that you've put in on a course that suits her well. We have to say that, but then still you have to do it. And I think that it's good to see that she's able to get those results in. And that's kind of how the world of cyclocross is going. You have some riders just having the worst season of their lives almost, and then you have the others that are, have still are very young and have a fruitful future, and it can change very quickly. So, I wish for both that they can, for Ribeiro obviously to keep it going and improve even more, and for Vorst to find the issues physically as well and get into a peace of mind and be able to get those good results in.
Let's look at that entire top 10 then. Alvarado with the win ahead of Brandt, Ribeiro and Vorst. Betsma ended 5th ahead of Aniek van Alphen, Manon Bakker, Inge van der Heijden. The final 2 places in the top 10 went to Belgian riders Sonnekant and Alicia Frank. Is there anybody you would like to point out here, Issam? I think most of them are kind of where we would expect them. Maybe Bakker slightly disappointing, but I feel like we've kind of discussed most of them in recent weeks. Is there anybody you would like to highlight in or outside the top 10?
You're kind of on point. It was a race where it was fluctuating a little bit. Like I said, Van der Heijden was having a good start, was up there, and then just fell back. We have discussed Ribeiro and Vorst already. Betsma had an okay race. Eventually found herself in 5th. Van Alphen kind of on that place as well. Bakker, I think Bakker had a crash in the first lap, and then just a bit difficult to get into the race, I would say, and then kind of ended up in a position that was not shockingly bad, but on a course like this it could have been, I think, a little bit better. Could have maybe be closer to both Vorst and Ribeiro, in my opinion. But overall, I think everyone kind of came on its place, and it was a fun race for the viewer, and I think a horrible race you either have to really love mud or it's like a horrible day for the rider.
Let's look at some results in the rest of Europe then. There was a race in France in Grenelle where Marcel Meiser took the win ahead of Valentin Raymondin and Kai de Bruikere. The women's race was won by Jinse Peters ahead of Amandie Vidon and Suzanne Verhoeven. Then there was also racing in Poland. There was a race in Laskowice, and well, respect for the races there, but pronouncing this is going to be super difficult. I'm pretty bad at Eastern European names, but Simon Pomian took the win in the men elite category. That was still doable. But the second place was for Kasper Szczepaniak, and the third place was for Michal Paluta. The women's elite race was won by Dominika Vlodrazek ahead of Antonia Bialek, and the third place was for Alexandra Adrezewajiska. Yeah, okay, sorry for anybody who actually knows how to pronounce this. I tried my best. Interesting enough, there was also a race in Slovakia and Samorin, which was won by a Polish rider. Marek Konwa took the win ahead of Daniel Wies-Nielsen and Patrick Cerny. The women's elite race was won by Susanna Kristalla, another Polish rider. Second place there was for Alessia Bouleri and Teresa Vanikova in the third there. Then the Finnish National Championships took place in Helsinki. Axel Rantanen took the win in the men's elite race, and Jenny Korhonen took the win in the women's elite category. Well, that will cover it. Issam, thank you for carrying this podcast.
No worries. Thank you for offending the land of Poland with the pronunciations, maybe. But yeah, thank you for having me, and no worries. I mean, it's you have your circumstances, obviously, and I was able to follow the race, so I'll be out there.
Yep, I'll be out there tomorrow watching all the categories race in Troyes. Should be a good day out. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will be back tomorrow. Goodbye.